Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 154 for June 23rd, 2015. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Brony, the special guest coordinator, and this week going to be the editor.
Flutterguy317, the media manager for the podcast.
And at Moose Park, I'm the question, the demon art and stuff guy.
You are the questions.
You are the stuff guy.
I am literally the question.
You've you transcended the guy, and now you just are the questions.
I am literally the question.
So, as I was doing the intro, I realized that every single week, the hardest thing about the intro is saying Cutie Art Crusaders in a row. It's not the date, it's not remembering the date or remembering my lines or whatever. It's saying Cutie Art Crusaders. I don't know why, but it sends my tongue in a twist every time.
Just say cack.
Kick. Welcome back to Kick. Welcome back to Kick. So Burned.
Yes.
You made a bit of an oopsie.
I may have.
No. Tell me more.
So, we recorded our episode 100 spoiler cast. It was super good. We were super excited about it. And then we went to go do other stuff. And then when I came back later that night, I realized I have no clue where my audio is. And somehow in the process of when we were done recording and then when I was going to bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, I realized that I had somehow closed Audacity without saving. And I had no clue how it came to this. And then I was sitting there in front of my computer at 4 in the morning like, oh my God, what do I do? I've messed up everything. So that means that for people who don't know what that means is that I don't have audio. There's nothing in the episode 100 spoiler cast of me saying anything. There's just Flutterguy, Rainbow Plasma, and Atmos Spark. It's just their audio. And so a 30-minute segment with just three people's audio and then an entire person missing ends up being really awkward. And so I was like, crap, and I didn't want to scrap it because like the episode 100 was really good and our spoiler cast was good. So what I did was I forgot completely about it and didn't worry about it at all for 3 days because it was finals week. So I illustrated my six comic pages that I had to do for my art final and wrote a 20-page script for my writing final and then turned that in on Wednesday. And then Wednesday night after I got out of school, I sat down and put everyone's audio track into Sony Vegas, the thing we edit in, and then edit it myself back in for every single part in which I talked.
So you had to listen back and redub it.
Yep, so I literally redubbed myself, and then I made up some things, so parts where I was talking or there was banter where it didn't make sense, I just cut it out entirely. And then there was one point in which I think Rainbow Plasma, you were talking to me, and then I just spliced Flutterguy and so you're talking to him and some magic happened, but I managed to salvage it, and it turned out maybe 4 minutes shorter than what it originally been, 4 or 5 minutes shorter,
right?
Just because there's audio loss to the ages.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turned out okay. Salvageable.
It's just funny because the episode 100 was the episode that we totally planned out too.
Yeah.
If you go back and you listen to it, we're very strict on timing. We wrote down all of the points we wanted to get to, and we mentioned with 5 minutes left, we're all gonna sit down and go over, and we each have a minute. We have to be solid on that minute, and we were very organized and timely, and I very much said that because I know we could have talked about that for an hour. So then on top of that, to have this super organized thing get completely scrambled, it's just funny.
I have to give major props to you for actually pulling that off. And for also telling me beforehand so I didn't freak out when I didn't have your audio when I was trying to edit it.
Yeah, you told us as soon as you were we didn't get the audio. And that's fine, when you say I forgot about it for 3 days and took it off, you told us that and we were yeah, sure, that's fine. So, that's it's all good. It's a funny story. And if you go back, I'm sure you could probably hear some edits there.
I'm curious if people will be able to tell, like, if they're reading it in the comments, like, why does Burn sound so weird?
Why was that transition so awkward?
If no one notices, then we're fine. No one ever notices.
That's funny. So, speaking of episode 100, I wanted to talk about a very nice email that we got last week, and we didn't have enough time in the talking points to get to it. But I wanted to get to it this week because it was a very nice thing that happened. So last week we got an email from, I'm trying to pull up her DeviantArt is Fizzy Cola Lizzie. Her
Lizzie
Tumblr is Arty Farty Liz. So apparently Lizzie likes to rhyme. She sent us some fan art about Burned and Ted being metrosexual horse boyfriends, and that's cute and everything.
I'm doing gun fingers, you can't tell.
Can you, Burned, if you could put that on the screen, that's really nice fan art. No, not the gun fingers, the fan art.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, she also did something, like, that's really cool, and we get those emails every once in a while, and that's really awesome. But what made this email really, really awesome is the follow-up email that she sent immediately after sending that email. Now, as everybody knows, I'm a huge stickler for spoilers, and I think a couple of the other guys on the podcast are they don't like to get spoiled about stuff either. Episode 100 was very difficult to not get spoiled about, although I made it through personally. I think all of us made it through without getting spoiled too badly. But what this person did, what Lizzie did, was she sent us an email saying, oh, hey, I totally forgot, but on my Tumblr that I just linked to you, there's a recent piece that I made or reblogged or whatever that has a spoiler for episode 100. So, maybe don't look at that until you've seen the episode. Just thought I'd send you a warning. Sorry about that. I know that you guys are really particular about spoilers. And I thought that was really, really awesome.
Right? What a sweetheart.
Yeah, I had woken up on the Friday, and I was looking through my phone at the emails, and it really just made my morning, because it was very, very thoughtful of someone to do that. To be able to know us well enough to know that we don't like spoilers, and to be able to think about us enough to be able to say hey, here's a warning, and just in general, thinking of us when they sent that email. So that's really awesome. I thought that was amazing. Mm-hmm. Anyways, the last thing that I want to talk about.
Thanks, Liz.
The last thing I want to talk about. Bernard and I talked about this a little bit before the podcast, so we're gonna have an argument right now. So I have a little Twitter thing that annoys me. So on Twitter, it is a fantastic social media website meant to share information between people.
Sharing.
And so that's wonderful, and I think that's great. And occasionally people will at us with stuff. They'll either ask us questions or have conversations about us, whatever. That's cool. I totally don't mind that. So occasionally we'll get the random at that doesn't really involve us, but that's fine. If they're thinking about what they're doing and doing that, then that's fine, right? So what my rant is about is someone will at us, right? And they'll say hey, have you you should go watch Cutie Art Crusade, they've got an awesome show. And then someone replies oh yeah, I should totally watch that. That's great. Love that. Totally cool.
Do more of that.
I'm just going to say, if that conversation then continues to be hey, what did you do last Tuesday? Oh, I was playing this game, and on and on and on and on and on. And you keep adding us. That's just a personal pet peeve of mine, because it's just my phone starts going off, it buzzes for every single time that someone adds us. And it's again, that's totally fine if you mean to do that, and we love it. But if you're just having a random side conversation that comes from that, then that really annoys me. And I know why it happens. Because when you hit reply on Twitter, it takes all of the people that were mentioned and puts them at the beginning again, right?
Yeah.
But just it's kind of at work. Sometimes emails will go around, big announcements. It'll have a bunch of people that it sends it to. It's an email list, right? Hundreds of people get sent to. And then someone replies all. So I'll hit reply all and make some sort of a witty comment about it. And that sends it to all 100 people that were on that list. And it just I don't, it's not
I know
relevant.
Every single one of you wanted to hear my witty snippet.
Yeah,
with business emails though, it's forget it. But with Twitter, in my opinion, that's sort of the nature of the platform.
Completely agree
and
with
it's
you,
like, yes, they're talking about something completely innocuous and irrelevant that they've spawned from that, but you, like, when they eventually added you, you started from this little micro conversation, and so Twitter is all about these little micro conversations, and, like, if you start from the beginning of them, yeah, you kind of get sucked into how they eventually, like, warp or whatever, but it's like, even that little conversation that we got sucked into, like, it was conversation between our friends, like on Twitter, like people whom we know, or at least I know.
Well, there are lots of occasions where that's not the case, though.
But yes and no.
I mean, yes, there had been conversations before from, you know, someone who's been like, "Hey, at Cutie Art Crusaders, I thought your show was really awesome, and I loved it," and we would reply back like, "Oh, that's really awesome," and then someone would like ask them a question on that reply that has nothing to do with the thing, and that's fine, you know, like, have that conversation. Like, I'm not saying don't have that conversation. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to reply, you know, if you hit reply, think about, like, should I be sending it to all the people that I'm adding, or do they just happen to be involved, like, happen to be some included in the previous
What if they want
tweet?
you to be part of the conversation? What
But
if they,
most of
what
the
if they
time they
want us to
don't.
know what they're doing on a Tuesday night?
But most of the time they don't.
Is there
Or if they do, I'm sorry, I just don't care.
is there any way to
Rude.
like mute a thread of tweets?
No.
No, you can't get untweeted.
You can.
I mean, you can block people. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear what video
Well,
games you're
but
playing.
that's
You
extreme.
block
You can
them.
unsync the app from your phone.
I guess so, but like I want to see. I want to see when people
Yeah.
send us messages. I want
Yeah.
to see. I want to see them. I think
Yeah.
that's. I think that's cute. I
It's
think
funny
that's fun.
because I agree with the extreme point of people like, I really like tacos, and just like we happen to get sucked into it. But at the same point, like the thing which I know is blowing up both of our phones because I get buzzed too.
Yeah.
Like that conversation was fine. It was cute. It was in between Ardale and Jer Bear, and then like a bunch of people joined in.
Sure, I guess. Yes. Okay.
And it was cute. It had to do with us.
If we're gonna,
and
if we're
apparently
gonna,
with me
it
too. They
didn't
were
though. It
making
had to
fun
do
of
with
me.
the first tweet had to do with us, and then everything else was inside jokes between like everybody. Except like I didn't know.
But
what
we
was going.
are us. Like we're part of them.
You
we're
are.
part of that
I don't know their inside jokes.
All right, so I would like to apologize on behalf of Ardale and
right.
Cyclone, because that's apparently not Jared Darkflame, for including Max in their fun
Look,
time.
here's the deal. Here's the deal. Right. I will make a compromise with you, Burned. Okay. There are conversations that are had where that has nothing to do with us and gets added. Those extreme scenarios I was talking about. There are also times when people add us for completely legitimate reasons, and then there's the middle ground in which friends add us and then have conversations. I will concede to that being fine.
Concede to you.
But for all the people who will at us, and we love it when you do, and saying, hey, we love your show, or you recommend us to someone else, or whatever, if your friend then ats you back and says, hey, how's third period class going? I'm going to be annoyed. Because I personally don't care.
And you don't want to annoy.
This is why I don't have a personal Twitter. Like, I'm a grumpy old man, and I don't care. But seriously, we love it when you add us, and we think it's very nice.
Please add us to all of your random conversations. I would love
This is
to
what's
hear.
going to happen. Everybody's going to be like, hey, I had tacos on Tuesday.
I would like
Friend,
at
like-
least one random person out there to like add us into some innocuous conversations, like at both at Cutie Art Crusade and then at me, Burn1 on Twitter, and then
Burn
I'll
CSC.
join in on the conversation just to push Max as well.
Like that's like we're gonna get a tweet this week that's basically like it's gonna be at you Burned and Burned.
Oh,
I had a taco. What does
if
at Cutie Art
if
Crusade
anyone
think?
tweets at me, I'll include Cutie Art Crusader in
Oh,
my
I hate
reply.
you so much. I hate you so much. All right, we got art to get to. My rant's over.
Right. Sweet.
I'm not first. Joel's first. That's not me.
I was waiting for my art introduction.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, so I have one here. It's called Royal Fun by Yakovlev Vud.
Royal fun.
Royal Fun.
Fun.
It's what's her name? Cadence with Spa Bunny
Yes.
in what I'm assuming is the spa. She's getting a massage and she's playing with rubber duckies of the princesses.
Well, it's an outdoor spa. It's some sort of fancy schmancy deal.
Yeah.
like hot springs, if you will.
Look at these rich princess ponies spending all of the money on these fancy dancy outdoor spas.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, why is Luna in such weird perspective? I don't get it.
she's
but
a rubber
she's
ducky.
literally
She's a ducky.
rubber ducky. Okay, I
So
get
is
it.
Twilight.
So all
on
of
the
the
plate.
princesses, yeah, all of the other princesses are all duckies. For whatever reason, Cadence has requested that the other princesses come in duck form. So there's Celestia being squeaked, Luna looking weird and or intoxicated, and there's a little Twilight duck in the background being held by some sort of butler as well.
I like that the butler's like, yeah, would you like your rubber ducky of Twilight?
We've brought you
your Princess Twilight, ma'am.
in duck form.
I love how wet and fuzzy Cadence's lower body looks.
Yeah,
that's right. You have a thing for wetness.
I do.
Forgot this.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I chose
right.
this one so much is normally with Yakov Levad we find it's like a mixture of technology and like natural earthy trees and stuff. This one, it's all trees. There's no sort of high-end, high technology in here like he usually is.
Well, he does do some technology, and he does like putting some technology in it, but he also likes putting kind of like old school reference in with it. But when I say old school, I mean like Greco-Roman type deal,
like
right?
ruins.
So that's kind of what's in the background there. You know, that's kind of like Greekish inspired stuff.
Yeah, there's like an aqueduct in the background, and
there's an aqueduct in Cadence's hands.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. There also seems to be like you know, these pictures of different colored liquids that kind of look like potions, you know, from like video games.
Well, at least the two
bright red massage oil,
bath bombs, you know, like bubble bath stuff. Like clearly,
yeah.
I mean, clearly, have you never seen pure red bubble bath?
Never
stuff?
seen pure like bath potions?
Ah, yes, the famous brand of bath potions.
Why is bubble bath always colorful, but the bubbles are always white?
Because bubble bath is actually a racist concept. That's why.
Oh,
wow.
Right.
This hot spring looks quite warm and toasty.
Yeah,
transition right away from
he did a really
yeah.
good job on that. Like the steam, I guess, sort of steam, like mist coming off of the character, like Cadence.
And
like,
water.
I really, really like that bit. And so yeah, like because you know that like hot, steamy baths or whatever, or you always see that in like in anime hot springs and stuff. Always that like mist stuff. Like it's mist, right? Like that kind of floats over the junk. That really low hanging mist over the warm water.
Yeah,
and then like I love. Because I just really like it in Cadence, because like when, I don't know if I've done this in Alaska a lot, but if you've been in something like really hot water and then you jump out into cold air, you steam like that. You know, like it happens if you're like running really hard. Yeah, when you're running really hard outside or something, it's like evaporating off of you. When I was in Alaska, my friend had a hot tub, and like so we'd jump out of the hot tub and jump in the snow, and you'd do that. You'd be like, I am Superman, you know, like smoky.
Yeah, I also like the origin of the steam as well, as the water, because like it's just like from that angle, I don't know, like water can be done in such a bad way if you're not careful, you know, like getting the angle of like a semi-transparent liquid is very difficult. But I think that this water is like some of the best water that I've seen in a long time. But we know that like Yakov Lablad, he does really good water. There was another piece that we did that I don't remember the name of, but it was like the piece that was like half water and half land.
Oh yeah, it was the Fluttershy above the water, like looking down into it, and you could see all the little fishies and stuff when you looked in the water.
Yeah, and he did water really well there too. So he obviously is very experienced with that. Not only like the body of water, but what you were mentioning before, Joel, like the water that's dripping off of Cadence too. It's really well done.
Hey, look at the towels that's like under her wing. They're so fuzzy. I want to wrap myself in them.
Oh yeah.
Just in general, this piece is very fuzzy. You mentioned it quite like right at the beginning, but I want to go back to it because like just in general, when you zoom in, like I don't think of this artist as being someone who makes particularly fuzzy ponies, but it's very prevalent in this piece. I'm not sure if it's like a new thing that he's trying or just an evolution of his style, but you know, especially when you look at which spa pony is that?
That is Lotus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at Lotus especially, like she's very, very fuzzy, and the towel that's on her butt is fuzzy, and it's very evident that he's going for a more fuzzy look.
Meticulously illustrated the edge of these characters and the towels with fuzz. So like he's taken like a brush in which he's made or like actually meticulously like etched in every single little bit of fuzz. You can actually look, if you look at the towel on the ground, that's kind of like splayed out there underneath her wings. It's using a brush on the right-hand side, like a special brush he made to like do like the right side of it. Right. And then like the left side and the edges around the towels that are folded, he's like drawn every single little hair as you go around, just like with a brush really quickly, just on the edge of things to make them kind of like pop with fuzz. So like even on the ears and stuff, it's all doing that kind of stuff.
Fuzz pop.
Very, very dedicated. Yes. Like to draw that little fuzz.
Yeah, that must be very difficult.
He must have illustrated the characters and done like his way with shading and illustrated very like cleanly like he does. And then like gone back in and added this kind of like these fuzz effects on the outsides of the characters, and then a little bit as well in the blending of that. You can see where their coat blends together. In the gradient that creates the lighting from like light and shadow on their arm and chest and stuff. He's also incorporated some of like the fuzzy blend shading there as well. I think it's most apparent on Aloe, right? Yeah,
Lotus.
Aloe, like on Lotus, whatever. Lotus on her arm, shoulder, and chest. You can kind of see where they like blend. Oh, even her cutie mark is fuzzy. I just noticed that as well. Both their cutie marks are fuzzy.
Everything in that little area there is fuzzy. Also, Celestia is mispronouncing the word squeak.
Squeak.
Squeck.
Because she's a duck. Get it?
Help me,
like
I
quack,
am Squeck.
But squeck instead.
Squeck.
I also wanted to mention that I thought the facial expressions and kind of the emotions that the ponies were giving off was really good too. I don't necessarily think of this artist as being someone who does that particularly like above and beyond, but this one's really good. You know, Lotus has got this kind of intrigued, like, I'm not quite sure what she's doing with these ducks, but it's kind of interesting look. And Cadence is super happy. Luna's a bit confused. I like her expression, and even the butler in the background, which we can barely even see, has got a good expression for his kind of a role.
What do you guys think about the perspective in which the butler is put into, like his size? Like, do you think it fits?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that makes sense. He might be a bit big, if I'm honest.
See, I was of the other opinion. I felt like he was a bit small. Because originally when I first saw this piece, the reason what warped my opinion is I thought Luna was like a normal sized pony, but like put way back there because I didn't recognize she was a duck at first, and then I realized, oh, they're little duckies. So like that water in which he's made, kind of, it does go into perspective, which is really cool. You notice it gets like more ripples as they go back. So it's that space in between where Cadence is sitting up in the foreground, and those, because the rocks, the towels, and her are all on the same plane, and then you have the water, and then so that space in between them and then the far edge of the water where the butler is standing was like that. What was you know, I was trying to look at in my head, like what is that distance from there to there. So I was trying to place him where I would think he would be in perspective, and I feel like you can technically kind of make that up, but I felt like my head wanted him to be bigger, but I feel like he makes sense now that I look at him more.
Yeah, I feel like
they don't really have as much a problem with it.
They should totally make pony rubber duckies.
I feel like he could go either way, like either larger or smaller or stay the same size. It kind of is up to the interpretation, I think.
Makes sense.
I was just looking at the architecture around him and thinking of the pony's sizes relative to that. That was my reference point.
That question we had last week, what toys would you like to see made? Rubber duckies.
Yeah. Go back and redo those.
But honestly, you got it editing stuff that's already been done.
Yeah.
I want to see Luna with her exact expression as a duck.
Confused duck.
Some other quick compliments on this before we move on. We've always talked about how good Yakovlev is at illustrating things and adding like leaves and foliage, and he has all these amazing little things he does. But the lighting in this as well, those like specular light rays, whatever they're called, the sun rays coming in. Yeah. Again, awesome. They add really good feeling, kind of like warmth and light to this like scene tree thing that they're placed in. And then the little like sparkly red bits like coming down too is pretty magical. So it's just like, the thing I feel like we all love the most in Yakovlev is like, one, the way he illustrates stuff, but also like the colors in which he uses. Like everything is so kind of like warm and vibrant in like everywhere in this, and it's like the color balance is so like, it's so good. Like the deep blue on the right hand side, and then like the red on the left. So you have this warm to cool ratio, and then like the characters stick out from that too.
Yeah, I was gonna mention I like the split between basically the two backgrounds. You got the woods on the right and this Romanesque thing on the left, and there's kind of like a diagonal split almost on the right third, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And again, weird style things to point out, like you notice it's really like nice and digitally illustrated, but there's like the squeaking from the ducks, so it's like make it a little bit comic squeak, thank you. And then there's a bit of like the expression and text above her, and there's also a like anime like sweat drop coming down Lotus. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like that's an interesting touch. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next piece, which I believe is me.
It is.
And I am bringing Spring Breeze by Hussey, who we haven't had on the show for a while.
Who Essie?
Who Hussey?
He's such a hussy.
He's just messing with you.
No. What's funny is we've always pronounced it Hussey, but I was talking to someone recently, and they were like, "Oh no, it's actually pronounced like this," and I'm like, "What?" But I totally forget how it's supposed to be pronounced. Yeah, they like corrected me.
Hussey, if you watch
Hussey.
this, please correct us with the correct pronunciation of your name. Somehow.
Weasel.
So this is a piece of Fluttershy with Angel on top. It's a very simple, kind of fun little piece. I think it's adorable.
I hate it.
You
Jeez, rude.
I hate it because Angel Bunny's in it.
Oh, wow. But he's a cute little bun.
I think he's trying to plant a flower in Fluttershy's brain, so, you know.
No, he's sticking that damaging flower from Super Smash Brothers into her hair.
Yeah.
Because he's a jerk.
But he's a cute little bun. I enjoy pieces that manipulate the normal bounds of an art piece, right? So things that break there's a couple of pieces that we've had where they'll have like a circular border and they'll have the characters kind of like come out of it. And this one isn't quite like that, but it's similar in that they've got this background color, this beige, this grayish color, and then there's this scene kind of like cut out from it, you know, this impossible little floating island of grass and wind in Fluttershy.
Yeah.
And I really like that it kind of manipulates the world in such a way that it's not quite realistic, despite the fact that everything that is depicted is kind of realistic. You got grass, you got snow, you got Fluttershy, you got Bunny, you got wind. All of that's fine. It just so happens that it is cut out from the rest of the world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I like that because it's a cute way to look at it, and I like your interpretation of it. For me, sometimes when I see a piece like this, though, or I guess like when I kind of break it down, it's the character that's illustrated, but then like the background isn't. It's like nothing else is illustrated. With just like a piece like this, like often what you'll see is when artists they'll just draw like a character, right? So you have Hussey, and he's painted Fluttershy because he's wanted to paint Fluttershy. But when you just have an illustration of a character and it's just that, like as an art piece, it's literally just an illustration of a character, and people don't look at it as anything more than that, so it seems inherently simplistic. But once you draw something to actually ground the character and place them on something, then you have what we're looking at right now, right? So you have Fluttershy, who's now placed in something. She's placed on something. So now it's not just the illustration of the character, it's an illustration of the character existing somewhere and on something. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So all he's done is draw Fluttershy grounded on something, which is like the grass and the flowers, which are really cute and well done, and then like added some wind around it as well, which kind of breaks that little like boundary bit. So now we have a sketch illustration of Fluttershy that has like wind and like a narrative and stuff around her, and then it's grounded on something. So artists out there, whenever you're illustrating stuff and illustrate characters, you can really do a lot if you physically ground your character onto something tangible, which is usually like the most simplest form is just adding a shadow under them, because like now you're explicitly saying like this character exists standing on something versus all I've drawn is a cute doodle of a character.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It's interesting because I mean, in this kind of sense, like in this kind of piece, you don't really have to focus on the setting or the background at all. Like there's a patch of grass that who knows where it is. So Hussey doesn't have to come up with this big elaborate backstory where Fluttershy is and whatnot. He can focus on the character but at the same time, he gives, like you said, Terra something to stand on, something interesting to look at, and it's more appealing to the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it more when the character is, and I know Rainbow Plasma does, and then I also really like kind of like the painty bits below her, where it's just kind of like subjective stuff underneath the ground which she's painted. I always dig that.
Right. The kind of way it like fades out in a brushy way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I did want to mention, you brought up the fact that the wind kind of broke her out, or broke the real world out of just that little circle as well, you know, like, yes, this circle exists, but the wind is pushing things past its little boundary, you know? And I thought that was cool, and I guess that's what I was kind of relating to when I talked about those previous pieces that break past boundaries.
Because, like, he's added a bit of a narrative to this piece that he's drawn, right? So it's not just a drawing of a character. There's something going on in this drawing of his character. And that simple little thing is one, there's a bunny on her head, but two, there's wind blowing. So, like, her hair is actually being blown by this wind, and there's a couple ways we can tell that. One, her hair is going whoosh, and then two, like, the grass is kind of swaying and at an angle in the wind as well. And then you have, like, all the little bits of debris and, like, leaves and stuff that are drawn, like, around her. So now there's an action going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really like how her hair is drawn with these like different colored strands, but they're very thick strands, and like some of them are even, you know, separated from the massive hair that she has.
I know. And I'm a sucker for everything Husi paints.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
interesting with the. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you finish,
Okay.
please.
It's just related to that. It's interesting how he really plays with the idea that the focus should be at the center of the subject, and as you go away from that, the things get less detailed. So, like her hair, right above her head, is very you know, detailed, kind of close together, and then as it gets away, like becomes less and less.
Little swooshy marks.
Yeah.
Husi does that a lot in his works. So if you look at a lot of his paintings, like the area in which he wants like the most focus, he puts the most care into, and like the smallest detail work. You know, Sesamoki kind of does similar stuff. What I was just going to point out is that I really like how he paints things. One, for the reason that you just pointed out, but two, it's just like the color in which he puts into stuff, right? So normally we see Husi painting like kind of like simple characters that are like still painted well, but placed into a scene, and then all the color work and painting work is put into the scene around them. Where this is kind of just like, it's a small painting of Fluttershy, but all the little color work and stuff that we normally see in the background is kind of put into her body. So parts that I really, really like and like are really smart choices in color use, or just smart choices in digital painting, is the purple in between like her legs, and like you could see like kind of by her thighs and like in between her forelegs, there's like these little bright spots of purple like separating the dark places, right?
Yeah.
So he's using purple to show like what is that deep shadow, and then also on the side of her neck he's shaded it in pink to match her hair. So like that incorporation of the pink from her hair like in her neck, and then like the deep spots of purple, I think are just some of my favorite little bits about it.
Right. So my piece is next, and it's called Tears and Honor by Cannibalus, and it depicts a statue of some soldiers and farmers and other things like that in a town of some sort. It's kind of some sort of like tribute to a battle that may have happened or otherwise. Now in the description it mentions that this would be honoring the guards of Celestia and Luna, as well as the farmers that stood up for whatever sort of battle that this was commemorating. And the reason why I chose this piece, obviously it's well made. All the things that we feature on our show are well made. But I enjoy the aspect of world building that this piece kind of does. You know, when you think about it, like, I don't really know I don't think they mention what battle, or if there was a battle, or whether or not this was just a random statue, but it's cool to think that, like, we have these kind of statues all over the place in our world, and so it makes sense that in some towns they might have similar statues for things that we don't necessarily know about yet, battles that have taken place that we hadn't learned about, or events and things like that. So I just like how it kind of expands the world of Equestria a bit more, and yeah.
If anyone's really interested, the text on this statue is actually slightly legible if you want to go read it. But the statue says, eternal memory and glory to the heroes, the guards of Celestia and Luna, and then the who did not spare their lives, something. And
it says it in the description too.
Oh, okay, cool. So you don't have to actually read the statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems to be maybe some sort of battle that had happened, but yeah, it's just a kind of, even if it wasn't for a specific battle, like seeing these statues kind of around gives you the sense that events have happened, that were relevant to these towns and were worth commemorating, even though we don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm. But I'm a sucker for really good world building as well. So, like, we have featured Jowie Bean's artwork a while back, and like of just two ponies like sitting in a diner, and like that was just like really a great world built around it. And so like this and like the story behind it, and like a nice statue that's been erected in what looks like Ponyville or something like that, right? And with like the characters from this battle, and then Assassin Monkey does a lot of really good kind of world building stuff like that too. But yeah, no, this is a cute scene, and then so it's like a very serious statue erected for like soldiers lost in battle, and then the stuff around looks very like memorial like to me. So when you have the those posts with chains connected to them, like that's a go-to visual like, similarity to where you see them at memorials. And then those bricks as well, those circular illustrated bricks in which he's drawn, that again is like really big.
It's very common around this types of memorials, is I think what you're trying to say.
Anywhere somewhere fancy, like you have that very like nice laid out brickwork. I don't know.
What about the pony under the bed?
Yeah. Where I was trying to go with that is just like serious tone and then something funny.
So, Cannibalists mentions, first of all, it's not Pinkie Pie, obviously, and he doesn't really know. Like what he was like, I don't know what I was thinking when I drew this random pony, shrug, but I like it because it heavily contrasts the seriousness of the piece, right? Like, to me, I look at this piece and there's the whole serious aspect of this memorial, and like you were saying, the environment around it is very serious. But then life goes on, The reason why these ponies fought was to protect people, and these people have grown up and now can live safer lives where they can goof around under some sort of weird cover,
Yeah. It's like the narrative we were just talking about. So, like, whether it's just a pony that's blowing in the wind, this also has, like, a narrative as well, but it's a little more in-depth. So you have, like, this very kind of serious statue, and, they fought a battle so people can live a safer life, and then this character is like pulled the the cloak to unveil the statue or show it to us, so presumably like we're the viewer standing and looking at this statue being unveiled, and then accidentally like covered herself in it. I
hadn't even thought of that.
That's the narrative I put to what she's doing down there, covered in a big white drape.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I like the idea of kind of more art in sort of these villages or towns, not necessarily Ponyville, but in different places in Equestria, just doing or just depicting kind of almost mundane things. Like, it's a memorial, so it's not really mundane. Like there's some presence in there, but like the house in the background, there's nothing too extraordinary around it, and like the whole setting around is not
it's very slice of life.
Yeah, I kind of like that, and I'd like to see more of that kind of stuff.
Like, some of the most mundane and seemingly innocuous things can be also some of the best things for world building. So something that we may gloss over in our everyday, like statues and stuff that we know or recognize, but don't take time to appreciate. Like when we see them in other cultures, we also assume that they have another deep context behind them. And so like, just like little things like that you know, can be very, very good if you're trying to like build a very rich world, looking at stuff, you know, in reality that holds deep context, and then putting a pony on it.
Yeah, just a random pony.
Yeah, cute stuff. Oh, it's painted really well too. We kind of skipped over that really quickly, but this artist did some really awesome brushwork with the trees there, like starting out like layering and like drawing like purple, and then putting different shades of green over that, and then ending in the lightest shade of green. So if you notice, it like goes purple, then kind of dark green, and then like light green over it. And then the statues as well are kind of in like a 3-tone of value, where they have like a bright white, a dark purple, and then like 2 tones in between them of 2 different like shades of like gray or like purple gray that kind of like build up how they are kind of detailed, which is really nice because it does make them kind of stand out as like a statue in this world. But it's almost like watercolor in the way in which they're kind of like illustrated there.
Yeah, it kind of makes
cool
sense.
Stuff.
It makes sense if it was an unveiling because of how bright white it is. It isn't like tarnished yet.
Yeah. Makes it seem new, shiny.
Yeah,
Cannibalists has a very very nice paint style when it comes to a lot of things.
All right, shall we move on to the last one then?
sure.
I guess it's yours.
That's me. I haven't gone yet. So the piece I chose for this week is called "On the Road" by Lucina, I believe. Lucine.
Pussy.
Lukine.
Yeah. So I like this piece because it seemed like a really cool, concept art kind of sketched, or concept art style almost. But I felt like this piece is really pretty in like the way in which it's painted, and then also the colors used to describe it. And yeah, I believe we featured this artist once or twice before in some of the cool paintings. But this is very different than the kind of stuff in which we featured by this artist before.
It looks so traditional.
Yeah, it does a bit. There's either the brushes the artist used, or just like the thing, I guess the digital canvas that it's painted on has like a setting set to it to make it look like a traditional canvas. And so
yeah, it looks like oil painting.
Yeah, so there's areas where the trees are drawn, especially, and then areas on the bridge as well, where the details, when they're put there, they have a texture to them that imitates if you were to put something on a canvas, and which again was really, really interesting. Added kind of an interesting touch to it.
It reminds me a lot of, like, not necessarily the way that it's painted or depicted, but it reminds me a lot of the kind of scenes that AJVL makes. Small pony in a big and fleshed out environment scene. And you know, it's the kind of thing that I look at and I'm like, this isn't a pony piece until you like see the pony and you're like, oh yeah, I guess it is.
It's Trixie.
You know, like in this one, it's like Trixie is like barely even fleshed out. She's like a blue blob with the purple and yellow smeared like cape and like a dot for an eye. You know, like it's very she's very much not the focus of this piece.
She's just like, just her and her cart are just placed in to kind of like place a pony into the set.
Yeah.
It's almost like this artist is kind of trying to say that she's like a really, really small part of this grandiose world, which contrasts like her personality, where she thinks she's like everything.
Yeah,
so
that's a cool
Look at
interpretation.
Ted thinking the deep thoughts. I like it.
Too deep.
Yeah.
7 me.
Hey, Lamo.
Like Ellen Powell. Anyway, so this piece is great. It's funny you mention AJVL. It's funny you mention AJVL because when I saw the aspect ratio of this piece, I thought Divinian, where it's like a very like wide piece, so with like kind of a sweeping landscape. But it's very much about the thing, the world that's painted, than like the character placed in it, right? Something cool about that texture is when you're painting traditional on a canvas, like the canvas acts as two things. It acts as like a surface in which the paint can scrape and like bind to. So when you put your brush on it, it like grabs onto it. But then it also adds as a form of texture and like in a way in which paint can blend. So in the areas where the canvas texture stuff is visible, you'll notice that it's almost like pixel dithering, if you know the word dithering, where it's blending the colors in, but then the colors behind them show through because the basically the paint didn't get worked into those grooves. So he's kind of utilizing that, but digitally, to create interesting ways in which colors can blend where they can't physically blend on your monitor if they were to not have that texture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you look at the trees up above, the colors are all blended and formed and seem more seamless, and to the point where none of them really stand out. But when you look at the center of the piece, because there's all this kind of like texturing going on and colors, like over colors, without them blending in certain areas, it pops a lot more. And so you see more of the individual colors than you do the muddling of the colors together, which again was really cool, and why I was like, yeah, like this would be a really awesome piece to feature.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that it's great that Byrne chose to feature the one thing that we've ever had that says A Lamo in the picture.
Yeah.
Just beneath the bridge, Byrne.
It's funny.
What? It actually says A Lamo.
It does.
Oh my god.
It's a bit of a strange addition.
Okay. No, I like it. It's like graffiti, right? Like graffiti under a bridge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I suppose.
I didn't notice that. Wow, that's awesome. I like it even more. It's like the artist having fun. It's like his own little personal signature. I like it.
Yeah, I mean there is a kind of like serious tone to this piece, you know, it's an environment piece and look at how fancy it is, and then the artist is like, lol, nope.
Hey, Lamau, I put a pony in it.
Yeah.
Can I rant more about this?
I will give you a time limit of 2 minutes to rant. How
And
about
then
that?
I want to say something if you haven't said it already.
And then we'll have Joel say something.
I want to say something after
All
Joel.
right, cool.
Okay, then you get 1.5 minutes because 2 people want to say something.
Okay, so I called this a concept art piece, and the reason I called it that was there's so much color and stuff thrown around that it's a very, very popular technique when doing concept art. So in concept art, when you're kind of just trying to like paint a world or get somewhere, like as a concept artist, you need to get results and you need to get them quick. So often what concept artists will do is they'll throw colors here, they'll throw colors there, and then they'll use brushes to do a lot of the work. So there's a lot of parts in this where it's just like big colors, sweeping colors like thrown down. So like the blue of the bridge and like the greens around everything, like causing the vignette. And then there's like more colors thrown on top of that. And then there's like paint the trees and then throw some colors on top of the trees to where it creates this like layer upon layer upon layer to try to create this really fantastic world, which technically can be created very quickly using some really cool techniques. So this piece seemed like I'm pretty sure it is kind of like this concept artish piece where there's this really cool world, and then there's these colors thrown down, and you see like really quick, like messy brushstrokes a lot over the places, and then like detail is added on top of those with like the little fireflies and the glowing lights and all the really like bright colors everywhere, and I don't know, it's just it's cool.
Okay, so I wanted to say it's really, really cool how they've done sort of like background there, but you can see between the trees how it just looks sort of out, and you can see there's no detail there at all. It's just like a stroke of color, but it looks like a city, and you can see the lead up to the city, where all the little it's all like the suburbs of the house. You can see like the dots of light with the houses, and then it gets further and further back, and there's this big skyscraper. It's full of light. And that was really cool to me. That's what I wanted to say.
See, that's what I'm talking about, where it's like the brush is doing the majority of the description, right? So it's like it's quickie, messy brushwork that's thrown on there, but yet it still looks like something. It's still similar enough to the representation of something which we associate it. Like, we can't directly make out what that is, but we recognize that that glowy brushwork on that hill up there must be somewhere in which the character is going, because it has a visual similaritude to buildings or a town or something.
And you're done. All right, we need to get to Ted. Ted, what was your point?
I wanted to kind of touch on that whole vignette that you brought up. I think it was really well done. Although it's interesting in this piece, it's a lot different than other vignettes we've seen in other pieces, because it's more like a letterbox than a vignette, because the sides of the piece are still bright. So there's kind of like this almost circular rectangle that's just like squished vertically, where there's this dark band at the top, dark band at the bottom, and like massive amounts of color in the middle. And it's interesting.
it's kind of to direct our focus too to the middle portion of this horizontal piece, right? So like we're looking at that kind of, there's even like a mist like going through the center of the piece, right? And like in the glow and stuff.
Yeah.
And so the dark parts of the foreground and the grass below, and the dark parts of the tree, since they're kind of like pushed together and darker, pushes our focus more towards like the characters.
Yeah.
Character.
Also, the colors are pretty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So pretty.
I know. Greens and purples and.
All right.
It's awesome work.
All right.
So
That's all our art for this week. So we should move on to the questions. I should note that all of our questions came in from Twitter. So, our first question is, would you like to know what I had for lunch? And that comes in from Burned.
I actually haven't eaten lunch today, so that's why I was curious.
Ooh. Well, I had Five Guys for lunch today. So,
No! Shut up! Joe! Save us.
I haven't had lunch yet.
Save us from Twitter hell.
I haven't had lunch yet because it's only 10 o'clock in the morning.
Ask the question.
Oh, okay. So first one here is, if you could take something from another OC and add it to your own, what would you take? By Ramaslack.
Wings and a horn.
Rainbow Plasma's butt.
Wow. So you'd have a butt on top of a butt.
I have no clue.
Double butt. No, I like it. This is your answer. That's you can't just make up a fake answer. That's your real answer. It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late.
Only I could do
You've
that.
taken my
I'm the
butt.
questions guy.
That's a good question. I would probably take someone's accessory, and I'm gonna have to think about it for just a little bit longer.
Have you guys seen that piece Shinoda did where he like actually took everyone's OC's thing?
I was just about to go look that up so I could pick one.
Also, no, I haven't.
So for you guys who haven't seen or don't know, or people who are watching the show, I'll put it on the screen. I'll try to find it for you. But it's a piece that Shinoda GE drew, where like he basically took a bunch of stuff from all the OCs and people who will frequent his art streams and a bunch of other things and some of his friends, and he like took a bunch of stuff from their character. Like he took one character's glasses and he's wearing them, so the character's like squinting at him, and it's good. It's fun stuff, and it's kind of like a toss to all those accessories that
I got one for
OCs
my
can
birthday
have.
where I'm just wearing everybody's armor from a D&D game.
So no one's got anything? No one's got a sweet answer?
I would steal the moth from Otaku AP.
Fair enough. I don't know. I would like for my OC. My OC is like lacking an accessory, so something like a piece of clothing, maybe like a scarf or like some sort of necklace. I think would be cool. Something around the neck, maybe that would be cool.
Choker. You want a choker?
I don't know.
Or
Choker.
like a like Celestia's chest piece.
Princess Ranbu to you, Ted.
You mean the Luna Bib? You're talking about the Luna
Or
Bib,
the Luna
right?
Bib, yeah.
Luna Bib.
I don't know, something like that. Maybe some.
Oh, I got it.
Maybe some fire decals on the side so I can go faster.
Everything's faster than
Whoosh.
flames.
Exactly.
Add horsepower.
Hey.
Hey.
What about you, Joel?
I'm not too sure. Maybe Nazi Goring's boyfriend's motorbike.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Technically counts. It's cool. That's a bull motorcycle, friend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
it's cute. For a legit answer, maybe like a sweater. Like I'm always jealous of Brayburn's sweater.
Oh
I
yeah.
always like his sweater. Or like fetlocks or something, like some OCs have like foozy hooves.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're. See, the thing is, Burned, like your OC, I don't think is quite metrosexual enough to pull off the sweater.
That's true.
So I'm not sure if a sweater.
I thought you were just gonna say it's not metrosexual enough, and I was like,
mean,
oh,
you
you
do-
got a point there. But then you're like, for a sweater, I was like, oh, how dare you?
Like
but
I think
if you-
I think Umber has his own kind of like I'm a cute little gay horse, so he can wear the sweater.
in a sweater. Yeah, I feel ya.
Yeah.
But
well, like go ahead.
I feel like if you wore the sweater, maybe that would help your metrosexual cause.
Maybe I would be more of a gay horse.
Maybe. But you'd need like see, the thing is, I think that you would work more as like hipstery, like metrosexual, you know?
Okay,
So,
well then, like I've always wanted to add like a scarf or something.
yeah,
'cause
so I
like
think scarf's
scarves.
more up your alley.
Because, like, I have a red scarf that I wear sometimes, and I feel like the red would go well with the blue, because I like red and blue.
Maybe
because
something
they're
that matches your
complements
eyes a
on
little
the
bit
thing.
more.
But then I'm primary colors, and I dig that too. Yellow eyes, blue hair, red scarf, and then
Yeah,
I'm
that's not
the
that's not a
primaries.
bad idea. Maybe mixing like yellow and red, so that because your eyes aren't too. Am I showing off how like actually metrosexual I am in real life? Like, oh boy.
Something else I'm really jelly of is Nazagoreng's mud hooves. Like, even if they were just like a design and they weren't actually like muddy hooves, because their muddy hooves are gross, is which why she can't have my goddamn chips. But they're still cute.
So okay, wait. Before we go on, so Joel has dropped from the call. I'm gonna just say this right now. Like, he's dropped from the call, and we're just going on and we're chucking. And normally I wouldn't say anything, but Skype just popped up a window saying, "How would you rate the overall quality of this call?" It's bad, Skype. You just dropped one of our members.
Dear Skype.
Damn it, Skype! You have one job.
Oh my goodness. So
Wow.
yeah. Well,
don't know
we're
what
gonna
to
do
do
some
now.
editing magic, and when we come back, Joel will announce the next question.
Please enjoy this elevator tone.
Don't use that.
Back.
Hey,
look at that, he's back.
he's back. That was quick.
Okay.
You'll
I'm using that.
you'll need to cut a lot of that.
Lots of swearing.
Lots of swear.
Nice. All right. Well, we finished up the question there. We decided burned would go well with a scarf.
Okay.
So would you like to go on to the next question, Joel?
Yes.
I want to go put on a scarf now.
So, second question I've got here is, you wake up, look out the window, and see your perfect landscape. What does it look like? By Sonnenblitz. I want to go first. It would look exactly like Minecraft. Because I would be in Minecraft.
I thought you were going to say it would look exactly like where I live right now, because you kind of do live in kind of like a paradise.
You wake up, look out the window, and see your perfect landscape. Okay.
Yeah.
If I were to wake up, look outside, and see my perfect landscape, something I freaking miss to death
Is it snow?
when I would wake up, and look outside is snow. This is a good guess, because whenever I would wake up in Alaska and like look outside and it's like the middle of winter and like it just snowed, like I guess like Max, you might know, but like there's something so purely serene about like every single thing you look outside and see is just covered in pure white.
So would
and
Ted.
smooth white, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes in Alaska after a blizzard, like the trees aren't even black anymore. Like they're covered in so much snow and frost that the trees are pure white, the ground is pure white, and it's so much like fluffy snow that now the ground doesn't even have texture to it. It's just pure
I've never
like
seen fluffy snow.
softness.
Yeah.
And it's like it looks like you're waking up and looking like out into heaven. And so like I had a really good view into my backyard, which was like big when I lived in But Nowhere Mountains of Alaska.
But Nowhere Mountains. That's the title of this. That's the title of this episode. But Nowhere Mountains. Well,
good stuff. Snow.
I think that's a good point, because if you grew up in a city, I grew up in a city. I grew up in Toronto, and that's the biggest city in Canada. And so you get
So
snow,
there's, like,
but
four
it's
people
kind of
living there?
it's kind of like meh, like it's all like a lot of it's dirty snow, and there's all it's gross kind of,
Yeah.
So I also was fortunate enough to have a cottage as a kid, and when you would go up there, like that's like untouched by man, so you'd get these like just sheets of snow that were just completely untouched, except for maybe like deer tracks, which were really cute, and
bunny tracks. Oh, bunny tracks.
yeah. And then there's like
Nostalgia. Ugh.
so related to that, and I'm going to transition this into my answer to the question. At my cottage, we would look out onto kind of like a slope that went down onto the lake. And so that was really beautiful during the winter, due to the snow kind of going down almost like a bumpy hill. But again, it was all perfect, so that was really cool. But I think it's hard to say what my perfect landscape would look like, but I do have very fond memories of being at that cottage and waking up and walking outside and seeing this, you'd look out the window, these big windows, and you'd see this kind of slope that goes down through nature and then opens up to this beautiful lake with the sunrise is coming up over the horizon. And that was always really fond memories of me. So I think if there was anything I would pick, it would probably be something like that.
I want,
Right.
for mine, I want mountains behind me and a balcony that opens up over a beach.
That'd be nice.
That would
That's
be
what I
really
want.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Balcony that opens up. So could you like walk off the balcony and like immediately onto sand?
Yes.
Nice. So it's almost like the beach comes right up to your door.
Yes.
That's cool.
And then mountains, like, on the other side of the house.
Cool. What about you, Ted?
It's so hard. I'm trying to think. Although I think I might have to say, I went on vacation a few years ago with my family, and we stayed at a hotel in Interlaken, Switzerland. And there was like Joel had in his answer, there was like big mountains with like snow caps on it that we actually ended up hiking up. And the rest of like it was like a typical European kind of village and town with like these rolling landscapes and stuff like that, and it was really nice. So I think probably that.
It's funny that you guys like made sure to incorporate mountains into your answers. Like when, like in Alaska, when I lived there, I just like mountains was already part of my answer. I just kind of didn't say it because when like Anchorage, this major city in Alaska, is basically it's basically on a mountain, like, but it's on the side of a mountain, so it's on like the base of a mountain.
Right.
And then to drive up to where I live, up my house, you drive up the mountain up a road called Hilltop.
Yeah.
And so like my house was like on the side of a mountain. We looked down into like the inlet, and so like we physically on my porch, you looked down like the mountain, like you had to look at a downward angle. And when you turned around behind you, you only saw the tops of mountains and another mountain called Flat Top and Rainier behind you.
Well, if you remember, Bernd, when we came to visit you in 2013 for Everfree Northwest,
yeah, I remember that.
like that was the first time I'd ever seen a mountain in person.
Which is so weird. Like that baffled me, because like growing up on a mountain, it's like, how did you not see?
Yeah, like on the east coast of North America, for those of you who don't know, there's no mountains. There's 0 mountains, right? But on the west coast, you've got like a huge range of mountains that span from, where all the way down to, I think, Northern California, all the way up through British Columbia and Canada, up to Alaska. And so, when you're driving around, we were driving from approximately Portland to Seattle. You'd be driving, and the landscapes looked very similar to what you might find out on the East Coast, except for on the horizon of the East Coast, it's usually a forest or maybe just a horizon. But on the West Coast, there's all of that, and then just like a mountain or two.
Yeah. So to give some info behind that, there's the Pacific Fault right here in the Pacific Northwest, and basically it creates volcanoes, long story short, and then those volcanoes turn into really big freaking mountains, like Mount St. Helens, and then Mount Olympia, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and all those. And they're just big, huge mountains right butt in the middle of nowhere with nothing around them. And then when you go east for a bit, then you have the Rockies. And then you have the Rockies when you go east of there. So on a horizon, if you don't see a huge mountain like right there in front of your face, when you look off into the distance, you still see tops of mountains because of the Rockies to the east.
So I'm not surprised that, like, I'm not sure about you, Ted, that you probably haven't seen a vast range of mountains in your lifetime either. So, growing up on the East Coast, we just don't see it. There's
like,
none
that
out
was
here.
so funny. Like, literally when these guys came over to my house to like, oh, let's go do some touristy stuff, they're like, show me mountains.
Yeah.
Like, you what?
Can we climb the mountain, please?
Like, I've never seen a mountain before.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've seen mountains, like, quote unquote mountains. Like, Vermont has a couple. There's and like I've traveled in Europe and all over the place, and I've seen mountains, but like, yeah, Max is right that like the East Coast mountains are not really mountains, they're kind of hills,
Very large hills.
yeah.
But there's something about like the snow-capped mountains, like it's just, for me, it's out of pure fiction, because all I see about it is in movies and described in books and in pictures, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Cool. Anyways, we should get on to the plugs and then end the podcast as I crack my knuckles right into the microphone. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I did that specifically for you. All right, let's go into the plugs.
Okay, so we have a Picado channel. You'll have to Google us to find it because it's awful to write down a Picado link.
You started our plugs with "it's awful."
Go on.
It's not our fault, it's Picado's fault. CutieArtCrusaders.deviantart.com, CutieArtCrusaders@gmail.com, YouTube.com/CutieArtCrusaders, CutieArtCrusaders.tumblr.com, Facebook.com/CutieArtCrusaders, and @CutieArtCrusade. Make sure you tag us into every single conversation you have on Twitter, because Max loves it.
I want to see at least 8 breakfasts on Twitter.
I had blueberry yogurt and muesli. And
Can't do it. Just don't care. Couldn't even put up an act. I so don't care. There are like literally a billion things I care more about.
I'm gonna go to a pub after this.
You should take a picture of it, send it to me on Twitter, so I have evidence.
So we were talking about my OC
for why I'm going to kill you.
We were talking about my OC wearing a scarf. I'm going to wear a scarf to this pub in Portland.
Take a
to
selfie.
Be as hipstery as possible, and I'll take a bunch of selfies, and then I'll tag you on Twitter.
I can lend you my selfie stick.
That's not hipstery. That's like dad not caring about their appearance kind of thing.
Yeah, that's who do you think got it for me?
Dads don't wear super sweet red and black floofy scarves.
So you read them back out.
Yeah, selfie stick.
The selfie stick? Oh yeah. Selfie stick is like one of those weird
that's weird.
Gross. Wouldn't do that.
Yeah. All right, well that's everything for this podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would extend it even longer, but I am literally sweating to death in my room. It's so hot in here.
Make sure to tune into our Twitter to see Burned in a Scarf.
Burned in a Scarf. He's gonna at me about everything, and I hate him already for it.
You're on live stream for Twitter.
All right.
Shame.
I never used Twitter, but I'm gonna start doing it just to know you.
Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Burned.
I'm FetaGuy317.
And I'm at Millspark.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Brendan, did you just have a hairball?